Our sponsors for this episode are Anderson Retail Liquor, located at 1411 North Main in Newton. That's 1411 North Main in Newton. Open 7 days a week, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 9 to 11, and Sundays from 12 to 8. You can also give them a call at 316-283-4432. That's 316-283-4432. Stop in and check them out. Shelter Insurance. Bradley Cook with Shelter Insurance is located at 227 West Broadway Street. That's 227 West Broadway Street in Newton, Kansas. You can give them a call at 316-283-4241. That's 316-283-4241. Bradley Cook, Bradley serving Newton, Kansas and surrounding areas. Is your AC or heating system just not keeping up? Maybe it's not keeping your home or business as cold or hot as it once did. It could also be that all you're looking for is a reliable, trustworthy, and affordable technician to check on your system and do whatever maintenance necessary to ensure it's working as efficiently and effectively as possible. If so, give Air Quality Control a call at 316-285-3304. That's Air Quality Control, 316-285-3304 for all your air quality control needs. Well, hello, everybody, and hello, Andy and Chad. How was your guys' week this week?
I'm about as busy as a one-armed man in a paper hanging factory. So it's just kind of the nature, right?
Time of year.
Yeah.
Everything's getting going and
well,
running.
Well, just all this stuff hit in about 2 days' time. So yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That means there's a lot of stuff going on, and for a small community, that's something that we want to see, we want to read, and I always look to the Kansans for that. Andy?
High stress time, a lot going on, very interesting directions. When there's times in your life when you have a literal timeline where events can change your trajectory, like we're looking at those opportunities going, well, all right, God, what's next? So yeah, things are good, but we're dealing with some real stuff, but a lot of things to be grateful for, and it'll always be good. But sometimes when you're in the seat, it's not what a lot of people think.
Yeah.
Well, you gotta. It's any time you want to move forward, it doesn't matter what it is in your life. And for the people that have made New Year's resolutions, you know what? It's tough. And you will have to grind it out to be able to get where you want to get. And that's just the way it is. This week, I was under the weather a little bit. Earlier in the week, I'm fighting whatever it was that everybody's got going around. Maybe it's a trifecta, or maybe it's a one thing. I've often wondered if this year it's not, well, you've got A, B, and C, and then you pass that A, B, and C to somebody else. You're not dealing with one thing. You're dealing with three things. But all the same, it gave me a chance to just go back. I was busy right after the first of the year, so I thought, well, I want to look at some of the numbers. Like, we're moving forward. Numbers are not everything. We don't live or die by our numbers, but I went back and I wanted to do a 30-day capture of how many impressions, which those of you that know what an impression is, or where someone rests on your content and engages in your content, is a different scenario. But just viewing your content, we hit in 31 days across all platforms 70,000 views, guys. Harvey County Talk as a whole, whether that be the interviews that we do on the side, whether that be now these updates that we're doing, because I wanted to see what the numbers were on that, included in ours, the shorts, the whole thing, 70,000. And for some that think, oh, that's nothing because, this person got 137,000 likes on their one post, we're also just focusing specifically on Harvey County.
Yeah.
And that's
on like a 30-mile radius.
Yes.
Yeah.
And don't try and poke holes in the balloon by looking at the views on YouTube that you see, because this thing is beyond YouTube.
Yes.
Oh, there's a lot more than that.
Oh, yeah.
But a
You
lot of people
know?
don't understand that. That's interesting to me.
I'm serious. They don't. And yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's only going to get better. And with these adjustments coming, it's going to be cool.
Yeah, we have a plan to put out a lot more content. I don't know if those of you that have seen, but we're doing a weekly or a bi-weekly update with the Chamber of Commerce, Newton Area Chamber of Commerce. Once a month, we're doing a Harvey County Sheriff with Chad Gay update just to get numbers and whatnot and what they're doing out there. We did an legislative update with Senator Stephen Owens, which we plan on doing bi-weekly during the legislature. We have one with Representative Avery Anderson coming up. It's moving in a direction in which we are able to work in conjunction with people that serve our community and get the word out to them through a different way, a different medium, and I think that's a good thing. So I want to say this before we get any farther, like I've made a commitment to do. We're gonna tell everybody what we're gonna be talking about. Of course, the headlines would be, "How about them numbers? I got the receipts to prove it." So just so you know, we covered that. Did the Kansas House of Representatives really ban media, or is it just procedural move? History and how we got here. Heads roll on the mainstream media and social media giants to do a complete 180. And what does the future of those mediums going to look like? Burn, baby, burn. The California wildfires are out of control, and what or who is to blame? And then to raise the flag or not to raise the flag? That is the question. But before we get into any of that, I think we're going to rest a little bit on the local news, Chad, because there's a lot of local news that's going on here in and around. But I'm pitching it over to you, but I want to ask, was GAF the biggest deal maker of the year for the state of Kansas? And who do we have to thank for that, Chad?
Who do we have to thank for that?
Who do we have to thank for that?
There's a whole team of amazing people. I can give
Yes.
2 names, but I'll let you do your thing.
Well, you know, I'll tell you who we have to thank for that. Just go back into the Kansas archives. There's a photo that was taken, and I took that photo at the Meridian Center, and I don't know why I framed it the way I did, but I thought it would be cool to do. And you got like the back of Matt Gillian's head, because he's taking a picture of this big old group of people who went to bat for Newton and said, "You got to come here." That's who we got to thank for this. One of them sitting right here. Right there. And, you know, some of those people give me credit too. I'm gonna be honest. Some of those people give me credit because there was other media out there trying to derail the whole darn thing.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of people that we have to thank for this.
Yeah.
But you're referring to the announcement that was made by Governor Laura Kelly. I think it was Monday. And this one slipped totally under my radar. So, you know, to all those people who want to know why I haven't reported on it or whatever else, I'm sorry.
Well, you're doing it right now, Chad.
But
That's it.
well, and straight up, I mean, the last 2-3 days, holy moly!
That one arm with the tape for the paper.
Yeah, exactly.
Clip, ready, set, clip.
Here we go, Chad. What do you
So
got?
Governor Laura Kelly announced that the GAF and their expansion in Newton was named the 2024 Deal of the Year Impact Award from Business Facilities Magazine. And it's in the Building Supply Manufacturing category.
And that's right here in Newton, Kansas.
And
That's
you know,
us, baby.
That's us.
people who know me and have heard me talk about this, and the guys that I was chit-chatting with at McDonald's on Saturday morning have heard me say this. This is the biggest economic development project in this region, and that region includes Wichita, in more than a decade. And it's not me that generated that statement. It was Economic Development Director of the Greater Wichita Area Economic Partnership.
Which our economic team works hand in hand very closely.
And you know, it's no accident that a year ago when we were talking this kind of stuff, Beth Shelton and the EDC were the Kansas Newsmaker of the Year, because $300 million is a crap ton of money.
It's a big deal.
Going up. The
But
number's
it's-
going up.
And it's just
so you know.
one project out of many.
Yeah.
And I tried to highlight that in a story that's coming out tomorrow, it's already online, about Full Vision.
Expansion.
Huge.
Because they did a $7 million expansion, and they were one of the very first announcements in sort of this wave that we got.
Can I set on that just for a minute? The
Yes.
Full Vision. So
Yeah, you were there Monday, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna go, but I didn't want to go around and get everybody sick. So that's my disclaimer. Is I just kind of took a break on showing up to things. We talked about on the Newton Area Chamber of Commerce update as ribbon cutting. I wanted to be there. I'm sorry, Full Vision, I wasn't there. I'd planned on being there. The last thing I wanted to do is go and give everybody a bunch of sickness. So you were there. I'm envious. I'm envious now.
Well, I got to see the son of the founder and talk to him. I got a picture with him. I could probably give it to you to post up if you want,
that.
with my GAF jacket on.
Oh yeah, do that. Do that.
But I'm a business nerd, and I admire these people who build things in communities like ours. It's the lifeblood of what we get to do and how our kids are able to get sponsorships for sports goods and things that they do. And it's amazing the amount. But I was putting in the address Full Vision to make sure I didn't go down the wrong road, because the way it's tucked in back there, I wanted to see if there was a faster way. And I put in Full Vision as I'm sitting in my driveway right before I took off. And I thought, Full Vision, what a beautiful thing to have named 67, 64 years ago, 67 or 64. It's right in there. And now this expansion it's a major one. Okay. When you talk about capacity, and I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but it's a big freaking deal for this community and for that business. The efficiencies, the bottlenecks they've taken out, the money they spent to do it right so they can win bigger accounts, the capacity that it brings them and their team. It's not about using technology to get rid of people. It's about using technology to repurpose people that are already there to do other things, to build their company, because it's a company-owned business. Remember that. And it's one of very few that's structured the way it's structured, which is another genius, beautiful American story. But this guy, the father of the gentleman I got a picture with yesterday, and it was an honor to shake his hand, to steward what he did to steward that family business. The story from a credible individual that I got is he built a cabin for his tractor. And that cabin, you could see everywhere, Full Vision, before it was being done. And other people liked it, so he continued to build them. They've innovated and changed and morphed into what they're doing today, which is some of the most amazing parts for some of the most amazing pieces of equipment going all over the world. And it's happening right here in Newton, Kansas.
Including a piece of equipment you never want to have to use.
Yep. And it started with a farmer,
right,
that built something for himself.
Yeah.
To make his situation a little better, and then his neighbors. And from that, you got Full Vision. Beautiful story.
Yes, and that is one of the top medical treadmill manufacturers in the world.
Yeah. Well, and I've got a little piece here
In
for
the
you guys
world.
that you probably
Cheers,
didn't
brother.
know. Well, because I wanna get on this bandwagon. They support other companies as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I go back to this and just think the smallest to the largest company that they're supporting. One of our sponsors on the program is MTO Residential and Commercial Cleaning Services, and believe it or not, they actually cleaned Full Vision and helped that company get their start 20 years ago.
Amazing.
So they for probably a decade, they went in there on the weekends and at night and cleaned Full Vision to be able to just build their company. And that was a support, and that was a relationship for many, many, many years. So even the smallest company that's there in the service industry is being supported by that place. And that's near and dear to my heart. I mean, especially, I'll say, I gotta throw something out here. You know, how would you like to have been the person that spoke openly out against GAF? Because there were some people that were doing that, and there were some people that were out there speaking against it.
Oh yeah, it's still there.
They're still there. There's still resistance there, and it's okay, man. I mean, seriously, everybody's entitled to their own opinion.
Absolutely.
Right? It's okay.
But to try to squash the largest investment in the region made in a community that was desperate for economic development and growth for your own personal reasons.
Yeah, but that you've got to realize though. I
mean,
hear what you're saying. There's
come on.
always a lot of sides to those coins, but when you think about the threat to what people want in culture when they have influence, it's it's distasteful for some people, and they're going to choose to believe what they want to believe for their own ends. And we can all do that. All of us can. But at the end of the day, for the community as a whole, this is a huge win. And some people weren't really up into it until they started looking at the numbers and realizing the impact it could have for our growth, for our school district, for commerce around the state and around the country. Because I'm telling you, we are positioned where we're located in this country for American-made products to be built, shipped, and moved around this whole country. Yeah. The only issue we have is we're not close to ports. But when you want to talk about manufacturing and moving out to all parts of the country,
American-made product,
we are positioned in an amazing way for that. Yeah.
And we do have an agreement with the Port of Catoosa.
So yeah, we
can train it right down there anytime we want.
But remember to always put yourself in somebody else's shoes. To what you don't have to agree with them, but it's okay to sit and where they're at and try to rationalize what could they be seeing and why are they upset. And I could see it. I can sit in it, and I might be doing the same thing that they're doing if I had that in my purview, but I don't. And frankly, my wants and needs are on the other side of that. I need growth for my company to grow. I need something to bite into. We need more meat on the bones around here, because I can go into another community and make 2 deals and make more than I make here in a year. You know, it's just because of capacity. We just don't have that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this helps everybody, and it helps me bring more tax dollars home so I can put into our economy so we can lower things here, right? Full Vision, selling across the world. Where does that money come? Comes here through Full Vision. Full Vision also had a local construction company, Votes Construction, do the work. They spent almost all their money locally.
Yeah.
And they did it intentionally. And the products they made, they brought American-made products. And so they're doing it. They're not talking about it. They're doing it just like Hillsborough Industries, right?
Yep.
American-made product, amazing, being done, metal bent, welders are here, and they're good paying jobs with benefits and the whole 9 yards, right? This is where we're going, and we are a part of it. So it's exciting. But yes, I can see why other people are upset. But for the majority of us, the bigger picture, man, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So let's hold on to it, though, and support and move it forward.
Yeah. And the tax revenue that comes in is going to be exponential. I mean, even though there was a tax abatement given for the tax revenue that would be generated off of the development of the property, that doesn't change the fact that we're going to have follow-up companies, that we're going to have people that are coming here for good-paying jobs, that are spending their gas money, that are buying things at our grocery store. You know, that there's more than just that way to collect revenue. But moving on,
real quick,
before you go away,
I opened up something, right?
You did.
I love it.
Last night at the city commission meeting, they gave their sort of annual report about how they're doing compared to their stated goals.
Mm-hmm.
We had, I wasn't paying attention real hard to one number, but I did pay attention to the other. Something like 150 housing starts this year. Most of those in Fox Ridge.
If you've driven by there, folks, man, that is
going
up. I mean, there's almost
like
time for people to start moving in
out there, man.
Yeah, fast.
But we're expecting up to 800 more.
Wow.
Okay.
That's 800 more homes that are paying into our sewer
800 more meters.
800 more meters, 800 more.
All of those are a result of the fact that we're expecting people to get a job here and move here. So when you give a tax abatement to a company like GAF, but you're going to expect that there's going to be people coming in, and one of the unsaid things about the GAF deal is, one of the things we don't know, they're going to be shutting down a plant somewhere. We do know that. We don't know how many of those employees they're going to turn to and say, you know what, in 3 weeks, we're going to open up this Newton plant.
You're welcome to come. Go check out
It's
Newton.
your choice. Yeah. You can walk or you can follow us. If those people decide to follow them, they need a house.
Well, not only that, but
that's how it expands the tax base, even though we gave them a tax base.
And to those people, come to Newton and see what we have to offer, because we have a wonderful community. And we really, really do.
Here's an example of how government can get in the way of capitalism doing what it does. And there's a balance, because I have a lot of people in my camp, the way I think and the way I choose to live. You know, people that know me, I love capitalism. You got a fire hydrant. and you got somebody that wants you to put a fire hydrant in for them to invest, let's just say it's $1 million, and you say no to a $20,000 fire hydrant, and that causes that company to go somewhere else, where McPherson or somewhere else would bring him in with open arms. So for $20,000, you stopped all of that opportunity. And we have people that don't understand, in positions that don't understand the impact of those types of decisions, because they want to hold on to that 20,000 and say, I stood the line.
Yeah,
I held the line.
I didn't raise. I didn't spend 20 grand.
It's like, you imagine if Full Vision wouldn't have invested in what they just built for all of us to gain. That was a long-term risk. It is an investment, and I guarantee you that thing wasn't cheap. That building we were sitting in, it was beautiful. It was built right. It's amazing.
That was a $7 million project.
Okay, there you go. They've levied $7 million on the hopes of growth. And you've got to take a little bit of risk. You got to be calculated, but you got to take some risk. And when you're trying to look at a $20,000 fire hydrant because of your perception of how much 20,000 is, when you're losing the sight of the bigger picture because you're not equipped to understand the whole picture, that's what we can't get caught in the weeds on the little things and not looking at the bigger picture of the possibilities. Focus on the possibilities, not the challenges. Yeah. And when we have people that are throwing away, let's just say we want to raise the LOB for the school district to 33 from 31. If I was to tell you guys, it was like it's like saying, you give me 175 and I'm going to give you $435,000. Would you take that deal in a private way?
Oh, heck yeah.
Why the hell didn't we do that in a public way? And we don't invest in people, but yet we say we want to invest in people, right? Well, there's these formulas that people don't understand. When you don't operate, you've got to have an understanding of how all of it works.
I don't even know if it goes down to that, because it comes back to, and I'm gonna poke the bear here, but misinformation that's generated by individuals because they have ulterior motives in the end. So if I'm going to sit here and I'm going to place the focus on this $20,000 fire hydrant, and I'm going to manipulate the information around to say, I'm saving you $20,000. If a business wanted to come and they're a multi-million-dollar business, then they don't need a tax abatement, or they should put in the $20,000, or they should do this and they should do that, when really all the company's doing is looking for buy-in. That's how economic development works. You don't have an economic development understanding.
Can I do this real quick?
Okay. I mean,
sorry. Let me do this. Let me do this.
You got to say it, though, right?
I mean, you got to say it.
Go ahead, Lance. Save me that $1 in taxes and prevent me from getting my next job. Go ahead.
That's not on me. I'm somebody that's for economic development.
No,
I've been fighting it, but I'm with you. You know what I'm saying? You're fighting this ignorance on behalf of people that are intentionally misleading things. And I gotta say, that's where, like, it's not even bittersweet. It's just bitter, in my opinion. And you know, once again, something that took place this week is the retirement of Randy Haig at the Harvey County Commission. I thought, man, I wonder if people realize what a wonderful commissioner we lost. And he didn't run against anybody and lose. It wasn't like that, but we had somebody that served our community for 12 years and did a wonderful job. And do I agree with everything Randy did? No, but I will promise you that his heart was here. He knew what was going on. He was pro-economic development. Very, very rarely did I ever think he was standing in the way of forward progress. In fact, I felt like he really wanted to foster that in our community. And it's just
he changed.
Oh, let me tell you this.
He changed. His campaign,
he learned.
Yeah.
And
his
moved.
campaign was very anti-economic development. Okay? And he beat Marge Roberson in a primary, and then was basically unopposed. Marge decided to run a write-in campaign, and all due respects to Marge and Becky and everybody who's tried to run write-in campaign, there's only ever been one successful one in this area. It just doesn't work. But he was very, and he fesses up to this. He was very anti-economic development.
12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah.
And then he got in there and he started, looking around and poking around, and he started to understand the only way we can keep our taxes reasonable is through growing the tax base. Well, how do you do that?
You invest in economic development.
And Newton is a small city, so we've got to get the town out of there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been saying
We're
that
a small city.
I've been saying that for 20
and people
years.
don't want that language, and that's what we are now. And we are going to grow more that way. And there's people that aren't going to like that. And there's a lot of properties an hour away from here that maybe they could look at. But at the end of the day, I think that's something people have to look at the reality of what we are now and where we're going. We have an airport, for God's sake.
Yeah, an airport that'll take about any plane. I mean, they literally have jets out there. Not fighter jets.
It's built
They
by the
have
Navy.
jets.
I mean,
Yeah, well, and
They can land
they can
about
land a cargo
anything
plane on there,
there.
can't
Yeah.
they?
yeah,
That's how they built
but
it
to your,
for wartime.
To your
that's
point,
insane.
to your point, we're building, and this is kind of hyperbole because I haven't actually sat down and gone, through the numbers, but it feels like right now out at Fox Ridge, we're building Walton.
Yeah, we are.
We're building a small town.
We are. And imagine
How
the 800.
how do
towns.
we? Why have we? I'm going to get way off on a rant if somebody doesn't rein me in really quick. I grew up in small towns. I know what
So
small
did I.
towns are.
200 population.
This is not a small town.
Not anymore.
No.
You want to live in a small town. To live in a small town, you got to drive a half an hour to get to a McDonald's. You got to drive 45 minutes to get to Walmart.
Yeah.
These are things that we have had forever. You got to.
It's true.
Growing up, I broke my flipping arm when I was 16,
Yeah,
and I had to sit in a milk truck.
That American grit, baby.
I was in a similar
It
situation.
was 40 minutes to the emergency
Yes.
room.
Your dad was hitting bumps on purpose, right?
I think he was.
You remember
No
what
one
that
had to go ahead and
heartbreak
get
was
I'm
about.
just. This is not. We are not a small town.
Chad, I grew up in an area until I was 12, almost 13 years old that was the same. I mean, 200 population. Anytime I decided I wanted to run out and hurt myself, the countless times I needed head stitches, it was a 40-minute drive to a town of about 800 people where the doctor was to stitch me up. It was an hour to get to a Walmart. There was no grocery store in town. You have one place to get gas. So that's small town.
Should I really
We
really
can
make
compete
people
with
angry?
Dude, we're
more
about to
cows
have
than
2
people.
McDonald's.
Yeah, I know.
Can I really make people really angry right now?
Right.
Let me do it. Not only are we not a small town, and not only are we a small city, for crying out loud, we have a suburb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, North Newton, that's what you are.
Yeah. Well, and I've constantly said, Chad, when it comes to economic development in our community, if you look at Harvey County as a whole, if we could figure out a way to market Harvey County as a whole, then when people come, they're not just looking at Newton. Newton has the majority of the amenities, and there are places you can live in Newton. But if you're wanting to live in a small town, there's a Walton. Go build a house in Walton.
Yes.
If you're wanting to live in...
And guess what? There's a housing development in Walton that has been sitting empty for more than 10 years. It's platted. You can go build a house there.
Halstead.
It sits right next to the now closed elementary school. And for years, we had this conversation. What's the future of the school going to be? What's the future of the school going to be? Well, we'll turn it into a charter school. We'll see if that helps. And it did. But nowhere along the line was anybody going, hey, maybe we should get some people to build some houses right next to it.
So we're not shipping kids in. So we have
So here we
kids that are here.
Here we are again. We're talking about growth. And what spurns growth? Or what turns growth? We lost Art and Mary's. So, what jobs there were in that town were gone. The mill isn't going to do it all by itself.
Yeah.
And the hilltop, it gone.
Yeah.
I mean, they had nothing growing, and then you've got a housing development that it's been platted, and it's been just sitting there.
Well, and it'll continue to sit there until people
see
an interest in
we
moving
got
to
it
there.
we got it going on here in Newton, and we need to embrace it. And doggone it, the football's been handed to us. We better run with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go.
And then another thing that's kind of that I just checked in on right before we started the show was the executive director of the New Hope Shelter, Brian Bisbee, is retiring.
Yes.
Now there will be a New Hope Shelter executive director, Corey Edwards, so we can welcome them. But Brian Bisbee, man, for the last however many years has just put his life out here, picked up where the previous executive director of the New Hope Shelter had left off, did a tremendous amount of fundraising. I mean, it's just unbelievable to be able to build a new building with more capacity to house more individuals in need. And I really like that place because if you get to the nitty-gritty on it, I call it transitional housing because you go in and they help you get a job. You only have a limited amount of time that you can stay. They will help support you in so many different ways so that way you can platform off of that place into your own home or some kind of individual living situation. And Brian, we really appreciate what you've done and how you've served the community. Randy, we appreciate all you've done and how you've served our community. Another one that just keeps in my mind right now is Anthony Schwarzenegger. He's on his way. We've got some wonderful people that have served our community for many years, and it just breaks my heart to watch them leave.
Well, we're going to enter a new era. I mean, it's something
good
everybody
things must come to an end. I guess I don't know.
One of the things people have to come to grips with is eras, and Newton is entering an era now, and then hopefully it's a good one.
Yeah, and to be fair, for everything all included, from what I'm gathering on this conversation, this piece of it is, when I first was elected to the school board, or actually appointed the first time, I don't agree with some of my decisions fully now. Because I've grown and learned, and I'm hoping that that's just what happens. People will come on, and maybe they have preconceived notions or whatever, but hopefully they gather the information, they make the best possible decision they can, looking at the full picture to the best of their ability, because we all have some set of blinders on, right?
Right.
Given our preferences and our upbringing, but when you look at the data and the information and you hear all the stories, you make the best decision you can make, and hopefully we got people without agendas that are looking for the agenda to be do the best you can for the greater good of the whole, not for my group or me as a person or a small sliver of supporters that we think are bigger than they are, that are wanting us to do what they want, right? Hopefully we can just think for ourselves, and let's see if people grow and mature. And the only thing you can do with that is give it time. Yeah. Time will tell.
Mm-hmm.
Time will tell, but you're more optimistic than myself because I've always believed that there are certain individuals that can weasel their way in through dishonesty
but it all comes out
to this, not to this.
It all comes out at the end of the day. All the games and all the stuff, eventually it all comes out. And if that's the way people want to pursue, it's going to be shown at the end, and more people see it than not eventually. Yeah.
All right, we spent a lot of time on local news, which is a good thing. I tell you,
and I got more. I'm telling you, but that's okay.
It goes back to I tell people subscribe to the Kansan, look up thekansan.com. It's literally, if you're doing a digital paper, you get 3 papers a week. Then that's 12 papers a month. For around $6, Chad, not including all the other stuff you do.
I do 152 editions a year.
And then you got...
156 editions
And if you're a paper reader and you like to have the paper in your hand, you're talking like $20 a month for this. So you're going to get all of your local news. It's going to be unbiased, it's going to be direct, and it's going to cover the majority of things that you're going to want to look at and know about within our community. I promise you won't be disappointed. Subscribe to the Kansan.
And a little shout out to the Kansan and just journalism in particular. They have this great, and I was talking to you guys about this, but I want to give it to everybody, right? There's this great system out there that I've fallen in love with. It's vtnews.ai. But I want to tell you that program was built, and without guys like Chad doing what they do on the front end, putting the meat in the stew, this thing doesn't have any stories to look for. to give us that data and information. So it's important. We've got to figure this out. How does this work in the future? And I think we're on the right track.
We'll support your local journalism all the time. Okay, so I guess we'll keep it more local before we go national, because we might not be able to cover all the topics that I mentioned at the top of the program. But one thing that seems to be causing a little bit of stir now that the legislature is going in, everybody was sworn in. They started their first week this week, so things will be up, moving, and rolling here real fast. And as anybody knows that watches the legislature here in Kansas, it moves fast. But I guess last year the Senate wound up establishing some rules that removed the media from the Senate floor. And I don't know if that's entirely, or whether they just said, hey, you can't be wandering around all over the floor while we're doing what we're doing. You have to remain over here in this one little section, or you can remain in the galley. Now that is the case in the House. So KWCH 12 News put out something on social media that says the rules banning reporters from most of the House floor are raising concern among journalists across the state. Sidelined, legislative session begins, new media rules for Kansas House. And I got to ask a question. The first thing that popped into my mind was, what's preventing them from doing their job if they can still be in the room and have access to all the information that needs to be reported on? And maybe Andy first, and then Chad, because Chad has a little bit more of a personal account to that, I suppose, given his occupation. What do you think, Andy? Are they being banned? First off, is that the word to use? Is that some clickbait?
It is not the word to use, but
okay. So
yeah, I mean, there you go, right? I mean, it's just there's a little sauce on it to get people to read the information. And they're probably, negotiations, right? You've got to kind of push a little harder on one side when they start making rules and regulations to get people to get their attention and eyeballs on it, to make sure that it doesn't get to the point where they even go further with it, right? So I don't know enough about the industry or that particular situation, so I'm going to look over to the person I would call, which would be Chad, to say, hey, what's up with this and what do you think? How do you view this?
Well, it does break a precedent. We're swimming in some new waters. What they're doing is they're restricting access. They're just restricting access, okay? And they're restricting how reporters are able to observe what's going on the floor. And I'll be straight. I mean, I've read some on this, and one of the things that I have a problem with is that the way this was done, it limits photographers big time. And I'm sorry, when you're making big decisions for the public should be able to see you. So if you're grimacing in your vote, the media should have every right to take your photo as you do it. And so I have a serious problem with, because ban is not the right word.
So that was some clickbait.
Well, I'm just saying I don't feel ban is because, as a member of the media, I can still go in there and I can sit in the gallery.
And there's a place on the floor that you can be too.
But there's things that I can't do that I used to be able to do.
Is it necessary?
No.
So what is and I know we don't have the answer, but this is where I go. Why would they do that? Where's this leading? And what's the next step?
Where's this leading? I don't know, but Ty Masterson has always been antagonistic with the media. Always. You want a quote? Sure. You don't always.
You're gonna give it to me,
Check this
Chad.
out, Ty.
Yeah, we watch the program, Ty.
I got you, Ty. You don't always get accurate information coming through the general flows of information and through the standard sources of media. That's Ty Masterson.
But it was okay. I got a question.
Wrong?
I got a question.
You don't always.
Okay, but
The
people
word
make
always is
mistakes.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but there are, and I'll give you, this is one thing that for the media people out there, because I'm just a knucklehead playing around the edges, which probably causes problems. But I remember we had this Walton thing going on here locally, and I remember listening to a reporter talking to one of our board members saying, well, I'm going to help you save your school. And he said that right in front of me. And I was like, wait a minute, is that your job?
No.
That was wrong on so many levels, and I wanted to blow that up so bad, but I was kind of like, I got to pick my battles right now. But just listening to that tells you that this reporter from one of these stations in Wichita, that I won't throw under the bus right now, had somebody in the room with an agenda. They're not even knowing the information. They maybe talked to somebody, pulled on their heartstrings, and they came over here to do a doggone job for them.
Well, and then let's go
I'm going,
back to
that's the problem with some of these younger, and it was a younger journalist, a younger reporter, in a face that has a big company name, a title, camera, the whole bit, did some reporting on this stuff, and it's like, wow.
The power of influence of the media. The power of influence of the media is very great on people. And then when we get into this digital age with what we're talking about, and the headline is that they get banned. They get banned from the House floor. Well, that's not necessarily
and they did get banned they got banned from a portion of the House floor.
Yeah. So then doesn't it give credence? Just asking. Doesn't it give credence to what Time was saying? And here's this. It's all about interpretation too. How do you interpret what that individual's saying? If I'm looking at it from my perspective of what Ty Masterson has said in the past, I am not a journalist. So for me, I will not take that as a personal attack on me. I will not take it as a personal dig on me. I will look at it from a third person perspective. Okay, well, that's what he's saying. Now, I have the ability to project onto what he's saying. Oh, yeah, that's right. All those NBCs, but not Fox Newses. Yeah. Or all those Fox Newses, but not MSNBC or MS, or whatever. I mean, I was even going to cover something this week about NBCs being dropped off of CNBC, and MSNBC are no longer part of the NBC, whatever. And it's like, wow, and this is the thing. I literally this week had a very difficult time picking through things that I tried to find, like The View's getting canceled. Well, actually it's not, but I can find more articles and more clickbait about how The View's getting canceled, but The View is not getting canceled. And the thing that I had to dig and find through is that they have not renewed the contract yet for this coming year, but it was actually late, or let's say early in 2024, before they renewed the contract for 2024. So it's all a bunch of crap. It's just clickbait. So, I mean, going back to, I went on a monologue here, but I'm with you, Chad.
I'm going to tell you a story that sort of forms my opinion, okay? Because as a journalist, I do have the right to an opinion. But personally, I try and demand that my opinion be an informed one. So
that's a good call.
My opinion of politicians is very low.
You mean people that will tell people anything they want to hear just so they can get elected, and then it's everybody else's fault that they can't get something.
And my opinion on this consistent, I'm beyond frustrated with this consistent little nitpicking at members of the media by people like Ty Masterson. And the reason that I get so frustrated is because of what I have experienced. One of the things that I experienced personally, and it was with a local legislator. That legislator was up in Topeka lobbying for the removal of the public notice requirement. And he didn't care about any of the ethics. He didn't care about anything. For him, he was trying to say it was about saving money, but I think it was about trying to remove a revenue stream for newspapers across the state. Because he just hated us all. And again, he was local. So he wrote a bill. He championed the bill. He got it through committee. And he was doing all the legwork on the bill. All right. I sent him a list of 5 questions. This is standard operating procedure for me. I sent him a list of 5 questions trying to get him to explain why he was doing this and why an 8th grader at Chisholm, for example, should care. 5 questions. I sent the exact same 5 questions to Doug Anstatt, who was president of the Kansas Press Association. Key to this story, Doug responded first. And Doug was absolutely an incredibly bright man. I wrote the story, and I did exactly what you're supposed to do. I got both sides of the story. I wrote the story, and then the local legislator accused me of going into attack mode. And then he did it publicly. And that I was being an activist. I got news for you. I didn't take you to task during your public forum. But key to this is Doug Anstatt replied first. That half of the story was already done before I heard from you. And so when Doug was refuting you, he predicted what you were going to say. But now I'm in attack mode, and the relationship between myself and that legislator continued to just keep going south. And it got to the point where, of all people, okay, somebody I absolutely do not agree with on a lot of issues, but I've always said their heart is in the right place. Barbara Bunting came to my defense. She was the one that pointed out, I don't write the bills in Topeka. They do. And it is my job to go and say, do you know what this guy is doing? That's my job.
Well, then this come back to
it's my job to look at Andy and go, you bastard.
Yeah.
And I did it this week.
We've had that talk.
Yeah. I mean, that's my job.
You got to be able to separate the hat sometimes. It's hard.
Yeah. And so here we are with these guys like Ty Masterson and now Dan Hawkins, who are just constantly pointing a finger. I'm the problem. I'm the problem. I'm the problem. Here's another one people don't know. Several years ago, Kansas Press Association had a day on the Hill. And to say we were disrespected is an understatement.
But is there, okay, I got a question real quick, Chad, on lumping people into categories. Okay, so you made a statement about how you're very distrustful of politicians. I don't disagree with you. I would have to say the same. Okay, I'm always looking for, well, of course, they're going to present something that's in the best light of whatever it is that they're wanting to push forward, and they're going to stick to that, and they're going to beat that drum. We've seen this happen, okay? But at the same time, are they lumping media in the same group together because one individual or a very small percentage or population of the quote-unquote media will write some crazy, story that's only covering what agenda they want to put forth, kind of like what Andy was talking about when it came to, I'm going to report on this, but I'm going to report on this in a way that's advantageous for you. So then you get into a situation, if a reporter thinks that what the legislature, what this politician is doing is not good or shouldn't be happening, that they're going to use their power of the pen to be able to go to war with a politician. And then these politicians are sitting here, or elected officials going, well, it's the media that's coming at war with us, so we put the same hat on all of you. Is it ultimately, I mean, I hate to say it, but to me, ultimately, that just sounds like a complete breakdown in communication. I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking to myself,
I'll say this from where I sit, okay, and I had very early on in my career, I had this conversation with somebody because I had a county commissioner. That's a politician, by the way. So we've got a politician sitting in my office who's also a used car salesman. Okay? And I'm looking at him and I'm going, how on earth am I supposed to trust you? And he looks at me and he's like, well, that's a good question. I'm a politician and I'm a used car salesman. That's two groups that you probably don't trust. He's like, that's two groups that nobody should trust. Okay. Well, now that I know that you're going to be honest with me, I can trust you. So just be honest with me.
Well, hopefully we're seeing the dawn of a new age when it comes to that. But the only way that can take place, I mean, okay, so, and the reason why I say this was last week we talked about wanting to cover, Andy had mentioned wanting to cover some things that are happening with AI and social media and these media giants and TikTok and the whole thing. We kind of lumped it all together. So it might be the last thing we get to talk about on the program this week. So before we give our last word, I mean, let's just say this. The fire is still ablazing. There was, at this point in time, 24 people who have died due to the California wildfires. They predicting strong winds continuously. It was somewhere in the thousands, 23,000 acres, and it's only been 14% contained, and that's just one of the largest blaze in the Palisades fire. So we can talk about that next week. We'll talk about the fires, so you know what we're talking about. But just has anybody else here sitting at the table seen the tide change when it comes to the way that the national media, especially these social media giants, are responding to the win by the Trump campaign for president?
I haven't had time to pay attention.
That's a long question, and I pay attention every day in my ecosystems. It's interesting how it's night and day, but not with certain media outfits. Your traditional, the CNN of the world, the people who are looking to sell off pieces of their book of business because their ratings are horrible and going down faster, even faster, which people thought was impossible, and it's happening. I've seen more of a shift with leadership in the social media side. And one that people will hit on was Zuckerberg, with him and his change recently, and him coming out and saying that he was getting calls, their team was getting calls from the government telling them to take certain posts down. And to the point where what hasn't come out yet, which is common knowledge in the tech world, they actually had a back-end portal opened up where government could get in there and take down posts at their will. And that's real. And that hasn't come out major yet. That's something that people know it did happen, and they're keeping that for some reason tempered. And I think in 6 months, all that stuff will be out in the open.
Because then it's the government that's restricting people's free speech rights on a business platform.
And it was a reach through. And that happened, right? And this is not conspiracy. This is real. Mark admitted the first piece of that. Now, here's people saying, they say a lot of stuff about, let's just talk about him because he's the biggest, right? Meta's the biggest out of that group, which 30% of people log into that on a daily basis in America. And the world numbers are pretty similar. But anyways, okay, let's get into details here. People can say what you want about his change of heart. I have had a change of heart many times over. I've made decisions 6 years ago that I would have changed that decision in hindsight now that I know what I know, because I've hopefully continued to grow and learn. The only thing that's going to tell us if this is legit or not, because people want to speculate, and it gets news, right? And people are curious because it is a stark shift. They're going back to their base, what they founded the company on, and their base model, which is freedom of speech. The reason he's having to say that out loud right now is because that wasn't the case. And he's basically come hat in hand saying, I'm sorry, we did some things that weren't right. And we were doing some things. But the pointed finger went at the last administration saying they were calling me. And we have emails. It's all out in the public now or we don't have the tape conversations where there was literally yelling and stuff going on, but they have the emails that were very pointed, very nasty, very aggressive, telling them to pull down posts that were true. They just, government didn't agree with it and they didn't want it out there. And that happened. So all that doesn't matter at this point. What matters now is, what is Mark gonna do over time? Because then you'll know, is this for real? Is he changing it because the wind is blown? Or is he changing it because he's had a change of heart? Or was he in a bad position with going up against the government and worried about his position and having to play game for his company? To me, none of that matters now. What matters is, how does this proceed forward? And what are the choices he makes now moving forward? Yeah. Because the past is the past, and people go through things, and we will never understand all the nuances of why he made his decisions. I won't, and I'm not going to take the time to, I don't know the guy. But I do know I can watch over 24 months to go, was that real? Could be business deals we don't know about. He could be laying landmines for other companies. He could be trying to get a hold and trying to make another application go out of business for his jargon that he's doing now to take more power later. I mean, there's a lot of moves. And when you're at that world and you go from being one of the richest people in the world to like not even in the top 50, and then a year later you're back up in the top 3, those gambles and those deals it's a different game that I won't understand at this point, but I know how, I have a concept of what that could look like. And so I'm not going to sit here and judge the guy. I'm going to judge him for what he's going to do moving forward. He's saying things I like to hear as an American with freedom of speech. Will he follow through with it? We'll see. So that's about where I'm at with that. I don't trust any of them. I like to see what they do, not what they say. And I'm going to say this. I like the direction of the country for the most part, but I don't trust any of it. I want to see it in 24 months. And I'll go, were we had again for the 5th president in a row? Or is there really something being done? Or are we just going to nibble around the edges and pretend we're doing something because we want to use that again in the next election? And then the other side will use it again in the next election.
Yeah, there's always
and we never get it done.
There's always got to be a problem that they're going to solve, right?
Well,
so
immigration.
If you remove
how long has
the
immigration
problem,
been a problem?
I mean, years and years and years.
Democrat or Republican, who's fixed it?
Nobody.
They're all full of it. At this point, that's the track record.
When did we actually start with immigration law?
60s?
50s.
Okay.
Been a problem since then.
And how many? You see what? This is the point, though. And both of parties, whoever parties out there watching this,
all gonna fix it,
and nobody's done it.
No.
So I would love for somebody. Healthcare. How long has that been a problem in our country?
Oh man.
Well, if it's not a problem, then they don't have something to fix, Andy.
But
They're not going to come in and fix. Well, but I'm going to fix it.
And then you get incompetence
if it
at
wasn't,
this point in some of these positions where it's not even about fixing it. It's about, please just don't burn us down before we get the next person that has a better story than you. Give us some more hope, because we're hurting right now. And we're giving billions of dollars away to things we should not be involved with at this point in time. And we're giving hundreds of dollars to our people that are hurting. We have people that should be in mental institutions that we can't have in hospitals. I have a family member that's in that position. And that started with Reagan cutting back on all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So the great American, and I have a quote of him in my office. It doesn't mean I liked everything he did, and he hurt a lot of people that were the least of them. And in my world, that sucks. But he wasn't perfect.
No,
and neither was in Barack. Let's don't get off on that.
Real boneheaded moves.
And
but
Clinton,
yes.
and all of them. So nobody's perfect, but are they going to do more good than bad? And the message I'm hearing right now sounds real damn good. Most of it. But is he going to follow through? Trump said himself, and I'm going to put this on blast because it means something to me, that he was going to work on opening up mental institutions again and funding that sector. I hope he frickin' does it.
But it goes back to this, Andy. It doesn't matter. I go back to this. Well, who's going to have to pass legislation to be able to accomplish that? All this money that's going here, all this money that's going there, all these things that go on, once again, that's Congress. That's Congress. Congress needs to pass legislation that does things about the border. Congress needs to pass legislation for prison reform or these institutions like what we're talking about with mental health or drug addiction. We just lock them up in prison. Yeah, let's put them in prison. Well, that's real good for your mental health, okay? So we just keep going down this road, and as long as there's not a problem to fix, well, then we're never going to have... And then it comes to this, too. I'll say it again. I do all the time. Well, it's not my fault that I couldn't get this accomplished. It's everybody else's fault.
Right. Well, we're $37 trillion in debt, and we're bleeding money like crazy. And the interest on that debt on a yearly basis has come up to be just as much as we spend on national defense. That's a problem. And that needs to be fixed. And sorry, all of my friends and family on both sides of the aisle, we have to all do hard things. And there will be some shakeup, and I'm just praying to God that the spillage doesn't hurt us to the point where we can't handle it.
Well, they will definitely cut costs that affect
it's gonna hurt. It's gonna
affect you, but they're not going to cut costs that affect them. I'd like to see the next time that Congress decides, you know what, we're going to freeze our wages and our benefits. Can Congress just all you get together and decide we're going to freeze our wages and we're going to freeze our benefits?
You can't really do that. They got to fly back and forth.
Ray,
I
mean, you know,
dinners in Washington are about $300 or $400 a night for a nice steak.
Well, what I'm saying, Andy, is don't take away from it. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying here.
I'm being facetious.
Not take it away, but just say we're not getting a pay raise right now. You know, they are always they work together always if it's something for the good of them. And it seems like anytime something gets cut, it's always at our expense, and it's the people that are the most in need. Right.
Well, and on the other hand, you'll
kudos
have
to Biden recently for doing the
I got a
Social
movie
Security
quote for you. I got a movie quote for you right now. Ray, if you talk pennies, you get pennies. If you talk dollars, you get dollars. And right now, Lance, you're talking pennies. I mean,
yeah.
Do I agree that they should
set... It's the fire hydrant.
Do I agree that they should set pay raises aside? Yes, I do. But...
That's pennies on the dollar for what they're spending in Ukraine right now and Russia to go to war with one another.
Well, if you look at the money that's being spent with some of the bloatedness that's over there in the Washington sector, it's almost unbelievable of how many people are being employed to really nice salaries. And when you see 6% of those mouses moving on a daily basis, that's a problem. When you have 430-something agencies, more than 2 a year, that this country's existed, and those agencies are tasked to do things and get more and meddle more into certain pieces of our communities, and we don't know how the results are or how it's really all being done, and almost nobody can name them all to you, that's a problem. That's a problem.
When we have an incoming president who doesn't even know who all of those agencies are, that is a problem.
Well, we have many presidents that
bureaucracy. The bureaucry is taking over.
There's a beautiful example of it. It was in the news cycle maybe 48 hours ago that President-elect Trump was talking about how he thought that we needed a new federal agency.
Yeah.
To collect on the tariffs that he wants to put together.
Yeah. But have you read up on the China on the Japan situation?
But the agency already exists. And it's already doing that.
No, it's not. It's failed so bad.
Well, whether it's failed or not, that is its job.
We made a deal in the 60s with Japan. And on the grace of the American heart, yes, there was some business stuff that we wanted too, of course. But they've been sending cars, and it was like to help rebuild after the war, right? That deal has been in place since then and never touched, never moved. And when Trump went over there to meet with them, he said, I knew you were coming. And that guy ended up getting assassinated shortly after, by the way. And it's real. But if you look at that situation and that tariff deal, and that we were in it since the 60s, whoever was regulating that is fired. And that's going on in multiples all the way around us. I mean, it's in multiples. And China has ripped us left and right on that. I mean, you can go over there and find no American product. And you come over here and everything is made from over there.
Well, and this takes me back to...
It goes deep.
Don't confuse what I'm saying here, Andy. What I'm saying is, what I'm speaking to is the number of agencies that we have.
Roger that.
And we have an agency that is in charge, whether they're doing the job or not. We have an agency that is in charge of doing what he wants to create an agency for.
Wouldn't that be interesting to be
So-
the agency
so we don't
responsible
need to-
for that agency? Be like, damn,
Well,
I failed my job.
Exactly.
Well, maybe you need to rebuild it because what's happening
Exactly.
now, whoever's
We
in
don't
that job
need
is
a new
incompetent.
one. We don't need a new one.
We just need the one that's
We need
there
to
do
reform
its
the
job.
one we got.
Yeah. And I would agree with that we need...
Well, I need more detail about that because I have heard of the new
It's-
one. I'm like, well,
Right.
that's interesting and smart.
And it's actually called the external
Instead of the IRS,
revenue.
it's an external.
Yes, instead of an internal
So
revenue
we're gonna go
service,
after people that
we
need to be giving
have
us money
an
that aren't.
external revenue service.
And you find out though through years of working with these groups is you have people that have accounts in front of them and they're pushing paper through, but they really don't know how it works. And most of them are inclined to be curious. I'm kind of a weirdo and self-taught, so I want to know how things connect. But you realize that is a different... God gifted me with something different than other people. Other people have another skill set than I don't. There's a lot of people that aren't curious of how the sausage is made. I was talking to a hospitalist. So they are the person in charge of the hospital, right? They are like the operator of the hospital. The nurses and the doctors, and they have to deal with all of them at a high level. I asked them some questions because I'm curious. They didn't even care about the operation side of it. They just were dealing with hand-to-hand combat. They had no wants. Very what I thought were simple questions about percentages and what is this and what is that. Curious. This is the person I would think would have all that data. Blank face. And I'm going, wow, okay. That's a big telltale sign of how most of the world works.
Yeah, we get into our grooves. Our government does need overhauled. If there's one thing that I'm hopeful, that I could say I'm optimistic about, is that we're going to see some of that happen over the next 4 years. But I also say I'm pessimistic because our bureaucracy over the years has grown so massive.
It's thick.
And it's so deep. And it's so ingrained in Washington right now that we couldn't even imagine. We just can't even imagine. It's just one layer opens up another layer that opens up another layer to the exponential 100,000th power. Type of thing. So we are coming in the program. We didn't get to cover everything we wanted to cover this week. Sorry about that, folks. We'll pick up where we left off next week. If you have anything that you'd like us to talk about on the program, I had a bunch of people reach out to me, and I say a bunch, that wanted us to talk about the California fires and what's going on there. So I'll just go ahead and pass it around the table for you guys to give your last words, and then we'll wrap this week up. What do you got for me? What do you got for us? Chad?
The Newton City Commission committed last night to exploring the possibility of spending about $60,000 a year over the course of the next 20 years for an extension of Sand Creek Trail.
Tell me that's coming up in the Kansan.
And yes, it is. And what that project is, they had applied for a grant fund to do this project last year. They did not receive the grant. And it is to extend it from by the dam over by Athletic Park south to Southwest 14th. So that's underneath the railroad tracks. And a couple of bridges, and it's a big project.
Yeah.
I think it's a good investment in this community. Polling numbers say it's going to be. It's something that people want.
Yeah.
But that's the price tag, and the reason it's $60,000 a year and not more like $200,000 a year is that KDOT actually called the city of Newton and said, we know you didn't get this grant, but there's another one that we would give you. Unlike the grant you applied for, there is a required match. So we're going to pay 20% of the cost
80% value.
and KDOT's going to pay 80.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And when local municipalities invest into those
And-
matching grants, that's usually a little
And
bit.
I've been doing
better
this a
chance of
long
being
time.
successful.
Suzanne's been doing this a long time. And at no time have we ever watched or seen an agency call the city or any city and say, hey, sorry you didn't get that one, but here's another one. And all you got to do is say you want it. And it's yours.
Amazing.
I have never, ever. That she's quoted as saying that tells her that it's a good project.
Yeah. Well,
Me, I've been all in on the trail for decades. I think it's one of the greatest things we have.
Maybe we've raised the eyebrow of the state of Kansas with all of the stuff that we've got going on here.
We got it going on, man.
Relationships matter.
We got it going on.
Yep, let's invest in Newton. All right,
Relationships matter.
Andy, last word.
Relationships matter. Build bridges. We are at an interesting time in a lot of ways, and it can go this way or that way with the spin of a dime. But at the end of the day, I'm so excited, and congratulations. That's a national award for the GAF project to the state of Kansas and our community. And we are being looked at a lot differently. And when you're winning, those things just start happening. So let's just stay on the up and up and do the best we can to open doors and communicate. And I want to say this. I had a little bit of a hard conversation with somebody I've been trying to meet with for a while now. And I've sent some text messages, and I had to ask them if I had the right number. And this is somebody I have to work with. And I really hope that they call and choose to talk to me and not see me as a threat, because I don't have time for that. I want to be an ally. You don't have to like me, but we have to work together. And I want to come at this in a way where our personal, whatever perceptions of each other can get put aside for the greater good of the whole. And I'm more than willing to do that. And I've done it a lot. But when things start getting rough, instead of pushing people away, you should start trying to communicate more. And I know there's moments when you need to give it a little bit of space. Chad, I know me and you eventually will have to go through our stuff. Lance, me and you have done it. But at the end of the day, set a clock and a timer and call that person and remember who they are, not who you're trying to make them be in your own head. When you stop communicating, you create things about other people that mostly aren't true. And that's not okay. Humanize each other. Link arms. We're in a special moment right now. We can do great things. And to my school district, we need to move because we need to match what we're getting given. And we're not doing it. And if we want to earn what we got coming to us, we've got to earn it, which means work and getting uncomfortable and opening lines of communication. So I'll leave it right there for now.
All right, my last word for the day is that I want to make sure everybody's aware. I know you've probably seen this out on social media quite a bit. I've seen it a lot of places, but I wanted to mention it here. On Saturday, January 18th at 10 a.m., this coming Saturday, at the Newton High School Library, there is a stem cell donor, I'm going to call it a run. You can go in there and you can get swabbed to see if by chance you can help this young lady named Jonah. She has leukemia, if I'm right. Mm-hmm. And this is something that has to happen for this person to be able to have the life-saving care that they need, that they have to have. Let's just put it that way. So once again, you can partake in Swab for Jonah at the Newton High School Library this Saturday, January 18th at 10 a.m. Get out there and help save a life, people.
And then go over to the TOC afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, and by the way, I've been on that donor list. I've been in that database for 5 or 6 years. It's really easy. Have no fear. I mean, seriously, they're gonna put a cotton swab inside your cheek, and you're damn done. It's no big deal.
Roger that. That's cool.
All right, so I expect to see the both of you there because I'm planning on being there. Have a good week, everybody.
Thank you, Lance.